Hi, this is Zam here with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zac's Traders Cafe for Sunday, the 9th of July. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which is back in oversold or deeply oversold territory. The RSI only 25 now. Last time we had the RSI at or below 30 was back in March and back in October. So maybe you can get the hint. In fact, even in September as well. So you can get the hint of what might happen next. According to the RSI, we hopefully will bounce relatively soon, maybe a day or two away. But obviously, they could still have a declined down to as low as the November support line projection at 70.85 within that kind of oversold situation. In terms of the upside, we had a low back there in March at 73.35, so maybe an end of day close back above that would be the first sign that we're actually turning around if you're using momentum rather than using the indicator, the RSI indicator, for direction. Moving on to the DAX, where we pointed out the potential triple top this index had. Actually done really well over the last, I suppose, post-October period anyway. So far, just testing the old April support there around 15,500. We were fearing that this market might head back down to March support of 15,300 at the moment. That's sort of the lowest that we're thinking this might go. Obviously, the RSI here around 37, so that does mean there is scope for a lower move, maybe even as low as the 200-day moving average, but at this stage, a little bit early to call it that low. Moving on to the Dow, and here that dance either side of the 34,000 level has continued. Here we've had well, I suppose a double top there above 34,000 for June and July, and an island top, an island reversal there with the gap higher and then gap down that we had during the week. The previous suggestion was that we'd head back down to the 50-day line at worst, but obviously at this stage there's still a chance of a move down to the 200-day moving average at 33,000. Hopefully, as our worst case scenarios, that would take the market again back down to where it was back in May. On to Bitcoin, where we're hoping and believing that this is market's in a better place than the indices. Here you can see that the extended bull flag that we've had there since the middle of last month still in place at 29,600. Above that, we're looking for an end of day close through 31,000, basically the April resistance, and then a move up to 35,000, perhaps as soon as the end of this month, especially given the way that it's probably make or break on breaking on to the upside over the next 3 or 4 weeks, given the way that we've already had a consolidation in that flag. If we don't get through 31,000, then the risk is of a test of the 50-day moving average, currently around 28,000, but at least it's rising, and so is the 200-day line down there at 25,000, so that does provide positive momentum, as does the way that the RSI is still well above neutral 50 at 58. Onto the stocks, and the cupboard relatively bare, as you might expect in current market conditions. Artemis has been one of the best situations of the week, just on the basis that it's risen on no news. It's also risen with a gap through the 50-day moving average in the middle of last month and has held that 50-day line ever since. Our initial target here up to 0.95, above 0.95, we're now looking for 1.4 pence, perhaps as soon as the end of this month. That's a February resistance line projection, and also the area of the 200-day moving average. This stage, only well below the old neckline resistance there around 0.85, really delaying the idea of ongoing recovery at Artemis. Next situation is one which has been all over the place in the recent past, but the current trajectory seems to be positive. We closed above the old June resistance around 10 pence, and above that looking for up to 12.5 pence at a September resistance line projection. If you're a fan of the shares looking for greater glory, then maybe up to 16 pence. And the early September resistance line projection could be seen by the end of next month. So it looks as though Cornerstone finally turning the corner, so to speak. On to Caspian, which had great update, although dividend concerns primarily taken some of the wind out of the sails there. We had a gap close buy signal to end the week. We closed above the 4 pence gap top from last month, so that's a plus. Above that, looking for the 200-day moving average around 5 pence, hopefully by the end of this month, but only while we're above that 4 pence level. On to stock which has been on the back foot for a little while now, critical metals. And here we can see that shares have been sort of backpedaling since back in November, really. There's a support line there from back in that month, and the support line there really running through around the 21 and a quarter pence level. Above that, we're looking for the shares to at least rebound up to 26 pence, which is the top of that falling wedge from the turn of the year. If you're cautious, you wait for the RSI now at 35 to break back above neutral 50, as it hasn't been above neutral 50 since the beginning of May. Moving on to another stock which has been in the wars, Estar Resources, but some signs of life here. Got a falling trend channel there from July this time last year, and the shares have so far bounced off the floor of that. Doesn't mean that they may bounce that much, but that area around 1.4 pence and the ultra low RSI that we had recently suggests that we could at least head back to the old May support at 2.5 pence plus by the end of this month, while we hold above the 1.5 pence zone. Future metals has been a reasonable recovery situation over the recent past. We broke out of that falling wedge there around 2 pence, and we've been holding during the week, a tough week, above the 50-day line around 2.4 pence. Above that, still the chance of a move up to as high as 4.5 pence by the end of next month. If you're cautious, you wait for an end-of-day close above recent resistance around the 2.8 pence level. There is bullish divergence, or there has been since March, so maybe that will push the stock onto another leg, and this is just a mid-move consolidation after the bear trap rebound. Moving along to Horizonte, which had an impressive RNS recently. Here it looks as though we've got the stock up and away, given the way that we had an unfilled gap to the upside at the end of last month, and we've never looked back, really. Top of the channel there as high as £1.85, and hopefully we'll hit that well before the end of this month. If you're a fan of the shares, looking for a higher target, then it probably come in the form of the line I'm about to draw at the moment, which is from May last year. That's heading as high as 220, so that might be a decent target maybe for the end of August or into September, something like that. This stage only well below the old resistance there, February, March, around £1.58, really delaying the call on the upside. Bigger stock today, given that we've got a bit of a dearth of smaller stocks, Ocado, and it's interesting here that the shares have been doing their best to give the bulls a rough ride, which normally means that the shares are going to continue going up. Downside the side of the 200-day moving average, a horrible bear trap there towards the £5 level. But we had a gap close buy signal to end the week around 570, the top of the gap there, and above 570, looking not only for a retest of the 630 zone, which was the peak last month on bid speculation, but also as high as £7, maybe as soon as the end of next month. So interesting configuration there at Ocado. Moving on to Renalytix, which has had the thumbs up from the FDA. Did help, actually. We had a bear trap rebound, bear trap gap reversal, in fact, at the end of last month, and it looks like the shares are ready to deliver another leg to the upside above recent support around 102, looking for as high as £1.60 by the end of next month, and perhaps even sooner. Good to see Touchstone on a turnaround here as well. Here we had a great end of the week above the 200-day line at 66 pence. Above that, looking for 85 pence by the end of this month. The rally started here with I suppose, a bear trap and then a gap close buy signal on Thursday, and that has delivered the goods. RSI bounced off neutral 50 as another positive signal. Onto a stock which is making its debut here, Windward, and here the interest obviously coming from the unfilled gap to the upside on Thursday. We broke the high of that day at 66 on Friday, and now looking to see how far the shares could stretch. Resistance line projection here from back in August. That's heading as high as £1.10, and we could see that delivered by the end of next month, while there's no end-of-day close back below the Thursday low there and the top of the gap at 60 pence. So £1.10 while we're above 60 pence. the technical message there at Windward. On to the last three, and first one is XL Media. Here you can see that we've just punctured the 50-day moving average on the end of the week, and looking for the shares to make progress within a broadening triangle base, which has been in place since May. The top of the triangle there heading as high as the 14 pence level, and we're looking for that hopefully over the next 4 to 6 weeks. The key here is probably staying above neckline resistance around 9.25 pence ahead of a move to 14. Xtract Resources, good update during the week, and just underlying the company's production credentials. Here we close just around the 50-day line, and end of day close above it around 1.6 pence could start a journey as high as 2.6 by the end of next month, and we want to remain above the trend line break there from April at 1.4 pence in the interim. Finishing off with Zenova, and here you can see that it's another stock which is gapped up quite well during the week, closed right on the 50-day line at 4.2 pence. While there's no end of day close back above the floor of the gap there at 4 pence, we're looking at as high as 7 pence by the end of next month. Obviously, that's the most optimistic scenario. Maybe the shares just peak out at May resistance there around 5.5, but at least there has been a significant turnaround. That's it for me today. More updates during the week.